Bill 7 exposed, the real reason PF Cadres are fighting back, Dr. Larry Mweetwa reveals all. Today, we break down Dr. Larry Mweetwa's explosive revelation about why some PF Cadres are fighting tooth and nail to stop Bill 7. Is it really about democracy? Is it fear of HH's government taking control? Or, is there a deeper secret these cadres don't want exposed? Dr. Mweetwa says the public is being misled, and the real reason is something very few Zambians are talking about. Stay with me as we unpack his argument and reveal what's really driving this political storm. Good day, viewers. Welcome to another edition of InspirAfrica Official. I'm Nakash. What a week it has been in Zambia's political landscape. As we approach the midpoint of December, the nation finds itself caught in yet another constitutional controversy that has divided opinion, sparked protests, and exposed what some are calling the most glaring political silence in recent memory. Today, we bring you an explosive story that cuts through the noise and reveals the uncomfortable truth behind Zambia's Bill 7 controversy. Picture this, a constitutional amendment bill that promises expanded representation and democratic inclusion. Opposition leaders crying foul, civil society organizations mobilizing protests, religious leaders expressing concern. And yet, when pressed to identify exactly what they oppose, a deafening silence follows. No specific clauses mentioned. No alternative proposals offered. Just procedural complaints and vague warnings about democracy in danger. What's really happening here? Why would political stakeholders refuse to engage with the actual content of legislation they claim threatens Zambia's future? Could it be that the opposition isn't about what's in Bill 7 at all, but about what it prevents? Is there a hidden agenda that opposition figures dare not speak aloud? Dr. Larry Mweetwa, director in the Ministry of Technology and Science and a keen political analyst, has broken ranks to expose what he calls the truth and main reason some patriotic front cadres are fighting against Bill 7. His revelations are stunning, his logic razor-sharp, and his challenge to the opposition brutally simple: show us the clauses you oppose, or admit you have other motives. What happens when the loudest voices in a democracy refuse to engage with facts? What does it mean when political opposition abandons substance for procedural theater? And most importantly, what are they really trying to protect? Factual foundation. The revelation came to light through a detailed analysis published by Dr. Mweetwa that has since ignited fierce debate across Zambian media and social platforms. The Constitution of Zambia Amendment Bill No. 7 of 2025 was formally published in the Government Gazette on May 23, 2025. Introduced by the Ministry of Justice, the bill proposed significant changes to Zambia's constitutional framework, including expanding the National Assembly from 156 to 211 constituency-based seats, introducing a mixed-member proportional representation electoral system, revising nomination procedures, and removing term limits for local government leaders. From the moment the bill was announced, opposition mounted quickly. The Law Association of Zambia, the Catholic Church, civil society organizations, and opposition political parties all raised concerns. By early June 2025, the criticism had intensified, with some critics describing Bill 7 as more frightening than Bill 10 and a threat to democracy. On June 26, 2025, parliamentary debate grew heated. Just one day later, on June 27, the Constitutional Court delivered a landmark ruling declaring Bill 7 unconstitutional, citing a lack of wide public consultation as required under Article 79 of the Constitution. The court emphasized that constitutional reforms must be people-driven, not solely initiated by the executive or legislature. Following the court ruling, President Hakainde Hichilema agreed to defer the bill and establish a 25-member technical committee to undertake fresh consultations. By October 2025, this committee had been formed to revive the stalled constitutional reform efforts, though debate over the legitimacy and scope of the process continues. It was against this backdrop that Dr. Larry Mweetwa published his explosive analysis, titled The Truth and Main Reason Some PF Cadres Don't Want Bill 7 Is Here. In it, he systematically dismantled the opposition's arguments and posed questions that remain unanswered. Direct evidence. Dr. Mweetwa's analysis begins with a direct observation that cuts to the heart of the matter. It is both curious and instructive that certain political stakeholders, particularly some Patriotic Front (PF) cadres, appear averse to substantive engagement on Bill 7. Each time they are invited quite reasonably to identify the precise clauses to which they object and to propose alternative wording, a conspicuous silence follows. He continues, instead, the default response is a procedural cliché: we do not like the process because not all stakeholders were consulted. But Dr. Mweetwa isn't satisfied with vague procedural objections. He presents the record, yet the record speaks for itself. Traditional leaders were consulted. Public notices were disseminated through television and other media platforms. An online portal was established to facilitate nationwide submissions. He then poses the challenge: when pressed to specify which stakeholders were allegedly excluded, the response invariably narrows to two civil society organizations, the Law Association of Zambia, LAZ, and the Non-Governmental Organizations Coordinating Council, GOC. On the issue of timing, Dr. Mweetwa offers devastating historical context. The argument is then swiftly shifted: the process has been rushed. Rushed when compared to what benchmark? Zambia's constitutional history offers useful context. President Kenneth Kaunda amended the constitution in 1991, an election year. President Frederick Chiluba did the same in 1996, also an election year. President Edgar Chagwa Lungu amended the constitution in January 2016, barely 7 months before general elections. None of these processes were invalidated on the mere ground of timing. He asks with measured irony. One is therefore entitled to ask, with some measured irony, since when did the calendar become a constitutional gatekeeper? And then comes perhaps his most pointed observation: strikingly, the same voices now opposing Bill 7 were silent when previous amendments were effected under arguably similar or even tighter timelines. The principle of equality before the law demands consistency. Selective outrage is not a constitutional doctrine. Dr. Mweetwa's legal argument is equally sharp. The constitutional architecture of Zambia vests the final amending authority in Parliament, subject to prescribed procedures, not in veto by protest. For the avoidance of doubt, many citizens have made their submissions in good faith and in accordance with the law. Those submissions are lawful, valid, and must be respected. No individual or group holds a monopoly over constitutional patriotism. He concludes with a legal maxim: as the old legal adage reminds us, equity aids the vigilant, not the indolent. His final challenge to the opposition is unambiguous. In sum, if objections to Bill 7 exist, let them be articulated with legal precision, not political anxiety. Let the contest be one of ideas, not of obstruction. And above all, let Parliament do what the Constitution empowers it to do: to deliberate, to amend, or to reject in open session, on behalf of the people of Zambia. Deeper analysis. Dr. Mweetwa's analysis raises profound questions about the nature of political opposition in Zambia and the tactics employed by those who claim to defend democracy. The most striking element is what critics have failed to do: engage with the actual content of Bill 7. Despite months of opposition, not a single opposition leader or civil society organization has publicly identified specific clauses they oppose and proposed alternative wording. This absence is telling. The bill itself proposed several significant changes. It would have increased parliamentary representation from 156 to 211 seats, potentially giving more regions and communities a voice in national governance. It introduced proportional representation seats specifically reserved for women, youth, and persons with disabilities, groups historically underrepresented in Zambian politics. Yet opposition figures, including Socialist Party leader Fred Membe, Citizens First President Harry Kalaba, and sections of the Catholic Church, raised alarms about provisions they claimed could alter the balance of power or weaken democratic safeguards. But which provisions? That question remains unanswered. The procedural arguments have also proven inconsistent. When critics complained about lack of consultation, the government pointed to traditional leaders who were consulted, public notices across media platforms, and an online portal for nationwide submissions. When critics complained about timing, historical precedent showed that previous governments, including the PF under Edgar Lungu, had amended the constitution on even tighter timelines without invalidation. The opposition's silence on substance raises uncomfortable possibilities. If they cannot identify problematic clauses, are the objections really about the bill's content, or about the political advantage it might provide to the ruling party? Some analysts, including Dr. Mweetwa, suggest the latter. One concern that has been raised more candidly is about the delimitation report, the document showing how the 55 additional parliamentary seats would be distributed. Critics fear that new constituency boundaries could favor regions that traditionally support the ruling UPND party, creating what some call regional hegemony. But even here, the opposition has been vague, unable to produce evidence because the full delimitation report has not been made public. Meanwhile, the Constitutional Court's ruling on June 27 added another layer of complexity. By declaring the bill unconstitutional due to insufficient consultation, the court established a new precedent. Previous constitutional amendments, including those under the PF government, had not faced such judicial scrutiny. The Law Association of Zambia welcomed the decision, calling for future reforms to be people-driven and led by an independent committee of experts. But this raises its own questions. Who decides what constitutes adequate consultation? When LAZ and NGOK were not consulted to their satisfaction, does that invalidate submissions from traditional leaders, ordinary citizens, and community groups who did participate? Does a handful of civil society organizations speak for all Zambians? The political dimensions cannot be ignored. With general elections scheduled for 2026, Bill 7 became a convenient rallying point for opposition parties seeking to consolidate support and position themselves as defenders of democracy. Whether their concerns are genuine or opportunistic remains a matter of debate. What is clear is that the controversy has exposed deep divisions in Zambian society about how constitutional change should occur, who should lead it, and what balance must be struck between parliamentary authority and public participation. Dr. Mweetwa's challenge remains on the table: engage with the substance, or admit the opposition is about something else entirely. Thank you so much for watching this edition of InspirAfrica Official. We've attempted to cut through the political noise and present the facts surrounding Bill 7 and the silence of its critics. Dr. Larry Mweetwa's analysis asks uncomfortable but necessary questions. Why refuse to engage with specific clauses? Why the selective outrage over timing when previous governments did the same? Why the procedural objections when consultation mechanisms were in place? These questions deserve answers, and as we approach the 2026 general elections, the constitutional debate in Zambia will only intensify. We want to hear from you. Do you agree with Dr. Mweetwa's assessment? Are the opposition's concerns legitimate, or is something else at play? What does genuine constitutional reform look like in Zambia? Leave your thoughts in the comments section below. Let's have a respectful, fact-based discussion about Zambia's democratic future. Remember to like this video, subscribe to InspirAfrica Official, and hit that notification bell so you never miss our in-depth coverage of African politics and society. We'll be back tomorrow with more stories that matter, more analysis that challenges, and more truth that empowers. Until then, I'm Nakash. Stay informed, stay engaged, and most importantly, stay inspired. God bless you, and God bless Zambia.